Alrighty. Usually stand for most of my stuff, but I figured since this will probably be a bit longer, I'll go ahead and sit down. All right, what's up, you guys? So I just figured I'd do a quick little live stream to cap off the start of the year. If any of you guys are looking to chat, I'm happy to chat. I just kind of figured I would go ahead and maybe I'll work on a little project. I actually hadn't really decided what I was going to do for this. I just kind of figured I would give it a try and see if anyone's interested. Pretty impromptu, so don't worry if you guys missed this and you're just watching this after the fact. So let's see here. What are some project ideas I've got? Let's just see if I had a video idea that actually involves programming. I don't really know if I had anything particular top of my head. Hey, what's up, Oz? How's it going? Seen you've commented on a few of my videos before. Let me know if the audio is coming out okay. I can't really tell. Let's see here. I had some ideas before. Nice. Good to hear that the audio is all good. I know the delay on YouTube is like brutal, so that's not great. I guess I could always start easy and Troff related. Just trying to think of what. Probably should have looked at this ahead of time. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's just go. If I got anything in here. So these are all like notes for a future video I'm doing comparing all the different versions of Troff. For those of you guys who know what that is, which should be a lot of you guys, because I think most of my viewers are from that from that sort of content. Have I ever thought of running a web server on Android True Alpine? I've actually gone ahead and done something like that before, except I really just ran the web server as a local, so I guess I ran it as localhost, so I guess some people would say that I didn't really run it as a web server, but I did that mostly just to try and, I did like a, I think I describe this, like a pulled together version of like a web interface, so that way, because like, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to use like Termux on your Android phone, but it is it's not really a super friendly interface just because like you're used to like touching around on your phone and pressing keys and everything. So since you can't press those keys, you kind of you lose out on a lot of the functionality. So you have to like move around and try and use it like a cursor, and it's not very comfortable on a phone. Whereas with a computer, it's a bit more different. And so because of that, I basically used it as a local host. That way I could execute the commands on my phone and basically get kind of like a do-it-yourself to-do list using that, just kind of as a neat idea. But I've never gone to the extent of actually running it as like a web server, running a website or anything like that, which is actually a pretty cool idea. Maybe I should look into that. I think there actually is, I don't know if I would do it as a chroot just because the phone that I currently use doesn't actually support root. So I'd have to do it, I guess I could do it through like a chroot on Termux, but I haven't really worked too much with that. And when I have worked with it, or I feel like incompatibility. So it's a bit strange, but either way, I have thought about it. Have you ever tried anything like that yourself? A call? Is that, if that's how you pronounce your name? Let me know if that's incorrect. Actually, here's in the meantime, let's go ahead and show you guys while I think of actually something that I can do. I kind of wanted to show you guys some really neat stuff that I've been doing if you guys are interested in the actual stuff that I do with Troff and Troff. And so that is, if I go to I use a not too sure if I'm supposed to know what that means. But anyways, on the Troff topic, I've actually been working on this really, wait. Do I use FFplay to display my cam? I used to use just MPV for my camera, but now I use OBS actually. I used to use like a super old computer, but now I actually just use I recently got, I guess I can't really, I'm trying to think of if I could show this off from the camera. Actually here, let's just go ahead. My desk's a bit messy, so. But I upgraded recently to this bad boy, which is X390 over this huge mother of a laptop. Oh, now I gotta try and fix this camera. See if I'm still on screen. All right. But that's what I, hopefully no one got motion sick there. That's what I actually used to use. But now I've upgraded. So now I use OBS instead of using MPV to show my camera. And so that's how I'm getting like the circular effect. But I actually don't know if you can do that with FFplay, the transparency part. But you could easily go ahead and do two sources from FFmpeg, I guess. I believe, yeah, you could do two sources from FFmpeg and then combine them together after the fact, which is actually kind of a neat idea. But I just use OBS now just because, as nice as FFmpeg was, I kind of prefer to be able to like check and make sure that everything looks all right during my stream. I'm sure you could probably do that, but I'm sure it's a lot more of a hassle to do with FFmpeg. I actually considered doing streaming before just with FFmpeg, but that was obviously a bit of a stretch to try and do. I tried doing it before on Twitch, but I didn't really announce it anywhere because I had a feeling it wasn't going to go too good, and it really didn't. Just because the automated sort of stuff didn't go great. Let's see here. Pretty good deal. What's up, man? How's the world? Is that how he says it? Zworldo? I haven't watched, what's that even called? I haven't watched JoJo's in a while. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good. In need of a Vim wiki Android front end. Man, I've actually, so I've been doing videos, or I've like considered doing a video on this for a while. I kind of like, I'm trying to think of how to describe this. I try to avoid doing videos on Vim just because like, even though I think I have a pretty good, like more than a necessary amount of Zworldo, that's it. Even though I think I have more than a necessary amount of knowledge with Vim, like I've written more Vim script than anyone in their right mind ever should. I actually, let's see here, I try to avoid making content on Vim just because there's just like a lot of people out there that, I try to avoid making content on Vim just because I've kind of rambled about this for a bit. But I've avoided making content on it just because there's a lot of other people that make content on Vim, and I feel like there's no point in me just making similar content to them, even though I think some parts might be interesting. Like one of the ones that I've thought about is actually I use org mode. So this is where I was getting with the Vim wiki thing. I actually use org mode, so let's just see here. So this is actually how I handle my notes. I use org mode, which like I think most of you guys are probably used to. If you've ever seen Vmax or even heard Emacs before, you've probably heard of it. And basically like org mode, it's pretty simple syntax, but it has the advantage of having like to-dos and everything built into it. And then on top of that, it has awesome Android app that you can use called what's it called? Orgsly. I'll put a link to that in just a sec. But let me just try and show this off. Oh, this is gonna look really bad. I'm all out of USB ports, so I won't be able to show. I'll just this is gonna look terrible. I'm sorry in advance. But anyway, so this is like kind of the, here, one sec. Let me just see if I can make sure that all right. So this is the kind of interface that you get with it. So you can like scroll up and down, you can select something, and then you get all of your notes, and you can like click on it, and then if it has a link, you can go to the link. You can set to-do dates. Let's see here, let's go to, so here I have things that are like set for to do. And then if I go onto my home screen, oh, this is a bad example because I don't have anything set to do anytime soon, just a sec. So if I go to my to-dos, it'll like list off all my to-dos, and I can actually have that on my home screen widget. So here's all my to-dos, and then I can, oh, this is really weird to do in this window, but then I can hit the check and it will just switch it to done, which is pretty nice. A ton of people tell me that I should be using Emacs for this sort of stuff, but I personally just go ahead and use Vim for it because I don't really need all the extra features that Emacs adds, but either way, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I use Vim due to, so let me just go ahead and grab some links for you guys so you guys can like see what I'm talking about. I guess I can open up a win. I'm always nervous that I'm going to end up showing all my personal information. So here's actually where you guys can go ahead and grab Orgsly. Let's go ahead and just throw this in the chat. That's the Orgsly link. And then I actually, for Vim, to do my org mode stuff, I use Vim. I use Vim due to. It uses pretty much the identical syntax to org mode, and it gives you nice things like, so if I go, so I can go ahead and it will give me my agenda view. I don't really have anything to do, but let's go to my to-do list, and then it takes a bit. It's not really the fastest, but it lists out all of my things I have to do, and it'll give me like the dates and everything if I am anywhere else. Yeah, I highly recommend Orgsly. It's like I wouldn't even use org mode if it wasn't for Orgsly, really. But it's just like, it's so good. It is. I haven't actually seen anything that really competes with it. Some people bring up, what's it called? Markor, I think it's called, which is like a markdown version of this. But the biggest thing is that, like, as much as I like having all my notes on one app, I want my to-dos to like kind of intermingle, because sometimes there isn't really, the line between a note and something that you need to get done is like pretty vague, and you could use something like todo.txt, which basically keeps everything on one line per to-do list event. But the issue is that when like you have a big task and it's pretty complex, you can like split it up. You eventually run into the issue where you have one line that's really long, and then you have to like break it up, and then it's not as readable. And I just find org mode is like super readable. How is org mode on Vim? Does it work well? Yeah, I'd say it works pretty well. It's not like perfect. So here I'll go ahead and like just open up like one of my archived ones. You see I don't know what it is, but sometimes it like doesn't recognize the file type, and I haven't been able to actually figure out what the cause of it is. But it works pretty well. You can do like here, you can have syntax blocks. I actually added something. I've made like a couple pull requests for it, but I've added stuff like you can actually use LaTeX in it, I believe. I can't actually remember the last time I've used this. Left arrow. Hope that's what it is in there. Oh. What is it? Oh, there's backslash. I'm trying to think of what any of this stuff was. I don't, lamb. I can't really remember. I'll have to look at it later on, and I'll go ahead and throw something down in the description after the fact on how you actually did the LaTeX stuff. I'm like questioning whether it got added into the actual project, but I'll have to check that out. But recently I've been making a couple extra pull requests to Vim due to, and I'll actually throw that down in the chat as well if you guys are interested in Vim due to. It's pretty good. It allows you to do folding, which is super convenient, especially if you have like a large, like I keep almost all my notes in like a small set of files. You're thinking of streaming now? Yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing it super regularly. We'll see how this stream goes. I feel like I don't really get to show off. I don't really get to like talk to you guys much, so I figured this would be a fun way to do it. I don't know quite what, oh, I just realized that I never switched it back. Whoops, sorry for everybody that's been wondering what I'm pointing at. There you go. So what I was saying before is like, yeah, it has folding. That's folding right here, and you can like change different levels and everything. Maybe I should have screen key going. Okay, hopefully I don't regret running screen key. Anyway, so yeah, so it has folding. I have enter actually mapped to ZA. So when I hit enter, it does the same thing as ZA, which just alternates folding. I've thought about doing a video just specifically on Vim folding, even though, like I said before, I don't like doing videos on Vim. I figured it might be worth it. There's a way to do math in Troff. Yeah, there is a way to do math in Troff. Here, just a sec. Here, actually, I'm just gonna increase this font size because I almost can't even read it because I'm so far back now. I have no idea what I changed, but we don't care. Let's see, math 211.ms. But I can't see what I'm selecting. Okay. So here's just an example of what I have set up. So this is kind of a simple example. Actually, let's go ahead and find one that's like actually formatted well because this is pretty old. I'm just trying to think of something I used math in recently that I could. Oh, actually, did I use math in that? Oh, I used math in chem. Let's see here. All right, so here's that took a while to find. So here's like an example of how I do math. So you can use like EQN, which is a preprocessor. I didn't really cover it much, but I basically, actually I didn't cover it in, I don't think, in anything. Mostly just because Luke Smith did a video on it and I try not to repeat content. That's like my number one thing that I just can't stand, is when YouTubers just do the same thing as another YouTuber and get views just because someone looked something up. That being said, my content is almost completely based around that because of the fact that my content is based around Groff and Troff. And most people really only know about that stuff because of one video Luke Smith made. So I can't really talk there. But anyways, so here's how you do math. You could do some pretty complex stuff. That's a really simple one. Let's just go ahead and open up this file so you guys know what I'm looking at. So yeah, so here's some of my notes. Let's see if I can just find relatively complex equation. So here's like another example. Equals 6 point. No, I can't find. This is like a huge Troff file, so it kind of takes a while to compile. As you can see down here, it's 152 pages, so it's quite complex. Going back for you. Transitioning into, oh wait, any tips on how to transition into Markdown or org mode? So if you're talking about, so it kind of comes down to like a specific thing. Like I use org mode for my day-to-day notes, but for my school notes, I use Troff, and that's pretty much where a lot of my Troff knowledge comes from. I don't know how I ended up doing, oh, I see, okay. Yeah, a lot of my school notes I actually do with Troff. So that's kind of how I ended up with this sort of stuff. It allows you to do math really easy. Here, I'll actually just give you guys a quick example. So let's go to the bottom of this so I can find it quicker. Just give it a sec. There we go. All right, so now let's go to the bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and show you guys how I do my math stuff, because especially if you're doing math, you kind of don't really have much of an option in Markdown. You can use LaTeX, but I find that the trade-off with trying to take fast notes with LaTeX is that it's not really like very fluid, if that makes sense. So here's just like a really example. So I would do like sum from 1 to 10. So summing from 1 to 10, 1 plus x. Now it's time for like the stress of like everybody watching you, so you make lots of mistakes. You know what I'm talking about? Probably. I feel like you guys probably know what I'm talking about. So here you go. So here from 1 to 10. And then I have like a nice little thing that I made that allows it to basically conceal the symbols, so it's a bit easier to read when you look at it. Sec, let's check the chat. I'm still trying to establish my workflow, so if this seems a bit chaotic, don't worry, it should get better as the stream goes on. Would I find more general content? Yeah, part of the reasons that so I'm gonna make a video pretty soon that actually is gonna be looking back on the year. Okay, it locked up for a sec. I'm gonna make a video soon looking back on the year and basically talking about my ideas and everything. But one of the big things that got me to start this channel was actually to make videos on Groff and Troff, because I think it has a lot of potential. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with it, and nobody really talks about it. And even Luke Smith's videos were very like introductory, and that's not really a bad thing. I think, especially with something like this that can get pretty complex, it's good to have a nice, simple introduction. And so I've considered making videos on EQN. There's just not too much to talk about because it is a very simple and intuitive program. But maybe I should, honestly, because I think a lot of people too that have watched some of my videos still ask a lot about it, because EQN is one of the nicest things about Troff, because it's just so convenient. Agreed. I'm assuming you're agreeing with like what I was talking about before. Oh, right. Actually, you're probably agreeing with the Marvin. And then, yeah, Groff docs are also. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, the Groff docs are not great. But that being said, I think the info, like the maybe I should change my default terminal size whenever I'm on stream, so I'm not just making everything nice and small. If you do info Groff, you can find like practically anything you need. So a good strategy for searching through it is you do Control S, and then this will allow you to search for something. And then I usually just think of like what I'm looking for. So if I was looking for margin, and then I hit enter and I go like, oh, this isn't quite what I'm looking for. And then I just hit Control S again. It can kind of jump me through each of the different things until I find what I'm looking for. So I find that pretty helpful. Another resource that I recommend, don't worry though, I will still be making content on this sort of stuff. But another resource I recommend is actually looking at the Groff mailing list. There's a lot of really good tools in there, and that's where I get a lot of my more obscure knowledge from. Like some of the things that are documented, some things are just straight up not documented. Like finding information on grep, like Oz just mentioned, like took quite a while. I don't know how. It must have been like something about how I was searching it, but I just could not find any information on it. And then now suddenly, I don't know what it is. I can find it like everywhere. So I don't really know what's going on with that. Maybe it's just because I started searching for it and I found it. But considering that I use DuckDuckGo, I'm kind of surprised that that's how this turned out. Anyways, graph docs are awful. Thanks for the awesome tools you bring us. No problem, man. That being said, I don't deserve all the thanks. Obviously, there's the devs of all those great tools that deserve a thank you as well. Happy that you love Grap. Grap's a great tool. Really love it. I don't use Grap that often, but I use it like for specific projects. So like especially if I'm doing a report, Grap is super useful, but I often like never think to use it. So I'll do some jerry-rigged way of doing something that I probably could have done way easier in Grap with Pick, which is kind of funny, but I feel like that's not really too much of a surprise if you guys have ever, I guess you guys haven't really seen a lot of my docs. I've actually been thinking about posting a lot of my old notes that I wrote with Troff. But let me know what you guys think about that if you guys want me to post those, because I don't really want to just flood my GitHub with that sort of stuff. So maybe I'll put it on like a FTP server or something like that. So that way it's just not a bunch of documents just all flooded in my GitHub for no reason. Something that I immediately forgot to actually give a real answer to was the keep going back to pen and paper one. So for that one, so there are like a few things you can do. Like I said before, I find using EQN for like the math portion of it pretty convenient, but especially if you have a professor, I guess it comes down to what you're doing, but if you're doing university notes and you're having trouble writing stuff down fast enough, a great solution that you can do is I actually have this little snippet of code in my vimRC where I do, like say for example, clip for live stream. All right, and then I can just do leader I, and then I can hit enter, and let's just cut it from over here. And it basically, that was a terrible idea. I don't know why I chose something that you guys aren't going to be able to see. But anyways, so then when I go ahead and compile it again, it will go ahead and put my screenshot in there. There we go. So there's my screenshot. Obviously, this takes a bit longer to compile because, like I said before, this is a 152-page set of notes. But this kind of makes it a lot easier to work with, especially if you're doing this sort of stuff. I actually use a stylus with a Wacom tablet, super small and everything. And I don't really use it for everything, but often like I don't really like using a mouse. And I find that like often when I need to do some really detailed stuff, I just get more mileage out of using a tablet and a pen. So here's just kind of like an example. So say for example, I like have this, and I yank it, and then I could just do GIMP. And then it goes ahead and opens it up. This is like obviously a pretty big example because this takes a bit longer. And then I can like erase anything I didn't really want in there. And then Control-Shift-E. And then export, replace, export. And then I can just discard. And then when I run it again, it will erase all that stuff. So that's one way to do it. Another thing that I end up actually doing pretty often too, depending on the class, sometimes I end up just going with using, like I said before, I used that old laptop, and that was actually had a tablet screen. It's like that thick, so it's a big, huge tablet screen, but it was a tablet. And for that, I would use like Exornal. And here you can like draw and everything like that. And if I use my stylus, you get the idea. But that's what I would use usually if it was like something like a class where I really just would be better off writing everything by hand, then that's a good option. Personally though, like if you're doing anything super complex, I would either use Troff or LaTeX, and then if it's like mostly drawing, you're not really going to get very much mileage with plain text unless you're like I'm sure there's people out there that are gods at doing purely ASCII stuff or just I'm sure there are people out there that can do that sort of stuff really quickly, but sometimes it is just easier to draw it out. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. I usually just upload those to my computer so I have them for later. My biggest issue with, just a sec, okay. Or YouTube is not recognizing it. Interesting. Okay, sorry. Viewers will experience buffering. Let's see what I'm doing wrong. If I'm doing anything wrong, I can't quite tell. Let's close some tabs. Let me know if everything's actually coming out all right. YouTube's just telling me that there's a lot of lag, so just let me know if there's anything like that going on. All right, anyways. I mean, good examples would be really cool. Totally. I think I'm going to do a few more examples. I don't know if you guys watched my Christmas tree video, but I think I'm going to try and do a few more videos like that. Okay, everything on my end is fine. Thanks. Yeah, not too sure. Maybe YouTube's just freaking out for some reason. Thanks on my first year computer. Totally. That's pretty cool. You're also in computer engineering. I used to be in computer engineering. I originally like started out and I wanted to go into computer engineering. And I completed like 3 years of computer engineering, and then I ended up switching to software engineering just because the programming side of things interested me more than the electrical engineering part of it. But I still have an interest in the field, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. But now I'm in software engineering, which kind of set me back. So for those of you guys I don't know, I guess you wouldn't probably put this together, but it kind of sounds like I've been in school forever. And part of that is pretty much just because of that, because I switched majors so late. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me know if you guys got any other questions and stuff. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess computer engineering and everything can be pretty. Also, computer engineering is super vague. Like my university, like after I'd switched majors, they like actually just removed the entire computer engineering faculty, and now computer engineering and electrical engineering are the exact same. So, so now in hindsight, I'm kind of happy I switched over, but yeah. Sec. Okay, I don't think there's anything else running. I was just making sure. All right, let's go ahead and actually mess around with something. I think degree is too low. Oh dear, as soon as I started seeing Spanish, I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. Because I don't speak any Spanish, obviously. I don't know if you've seen me. I definitely don't seem like the kind of guy that's cultured. But anyways, okay, let's go ahead and actually try and do something fun. Let's think of what I actually wanted to do. So something I was actually thinking of trying to do. So somebody actually asked me about this pretty recently, and that was basically like if I would be interested in actually making the functionality of R Markdown available in using something like Troff. And so I figured I would try and do something like that, but I haven't really been too sure on how I wanted to go about it because I haven't used R Markdown very much. And when I say very much, I mean like at all. I don't think I've ever actually installed it. But looking at how it works, it doesn't seem like it'd be too bad. My biggest thing So there's actually like something that can kind of like mimic that functionality called GPerl. So if you use GPerl, this is basically a way to like execute Perl. And when you execute Perl, you basically can actually like save its standard output to strings and registers and all that sort of stuff. So you guys can use it later, which is pretty neat. I actually TMPMS. So here's like an example. So when I go ahead and just pipe all of this, let's make that a bit bigger. If I take all of that and pipe that into GPerl, oh, what did I break? Oh, if I pipe all of that, GPerl, it will basically store all the standard output into a string, and then it will just print it out. So if I actually compile that, oh my goodness. Yeah, so if I actually compile that, it will actually like put the string just to standard output, and then say if I wanted to make it bold, I could do \b or \fp, and then that'll make it all in bold. So you could do some really interesting stuff with it. And so I figured I could probably try and jerry rig something like this to work with R to be similar to R Markdown. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe I'll try and do something like that. That's just an idea I've had. But yeah. Actually, I guess while I'm here, I'll go ahead and look at what I was talking about with do to. So how I do org mode in Vim. Let me know if you guys want me to look at something else. I'm open to whatever. What domain do I want to cover with the DSLs you make? I'm pretty, one sec. It cracks. So I'm pretty open to covering a lot of different stuff with my DSLs. I've kind of just been interested in the idea of them, and then because of that, I've wanted to try making them. There's quite a few for a bunch of different things, but I've had some like interesting ideas. One of the biggest ones is that there's a DSL that already exists that I wanted to either contribute or just fork, called Video. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So it's called VideoLang. So I've been kind of interested in it. It's a pretty simple DSL. It's not really anything too complicated, but the biggest thing is that it allows you to edit your videos using Racket. And so I was pretty interested in it, but sadly it's a bit unstable, and it hasn't really been developed too much recently. So I kind of wanted to, actually I haven't tried it on this computer. So that being said, my old computer had a lot of issues with this sort of stuff just because it was so old. Like the OpenGL versions and stuff like that for a lot of things didn't work anymore. So maybe it runs a bit better on this computer. I should actually give it a try. But my biggest thing was that I was interested in looking at something like this. Another thing that I actually have done before is using Slideshow, which is another DSL. It's for making slideshows, obviously, as it comes from the name. And that's a pretty cool one. But when it comes to like making my own, I haven't had any specific thing in mind yet. But I am open to suggestions if anybody has any cool ideas. Yeah. So this is kind of where I'm at. Actually, if you guys want to, let's go ahead and actually just go to the source code for this, just so I can actually check in. Where? All right, let's just go to GitHub. There you go. So this is the actual source code. So the last update was 2019, which isn't terrible, but as you can see, it hasn't really gotten much maintenance besides that. So that's not really too great. So I'm not really too sure on how like supported this actually is anymore, but I don't know, I might look into it a bit more and maybe fork it or make some pull requests to see if I can help out. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with the DSL setup and everything. I've actually considered trying to make a DSL that can kind of act as a wrapper around Troff, but I'm not really too sure how into that I am. I feel like there's a lot of tools that try to do something similar to that, and as a big Troff user, I find that I never really I don't see like the advantage of that in a lot of cases. Like for example, like a big thing, like a lot of people love to just make conversions between Troff and Markdown, but like let's see here. So yeah, so here, one sec. Oh, not 320. I was looking for 370. So here's like an example. So a lot of people like to do Markdown conversions, but I feel like that's not necessary. Like here, I've basically set up a really simple set of macros to basically simulate that. And so now this might seem a bit convoluted, but like then you get your headings, and then you can do all the extra formatting that you could ever really want. So let's just go ahead and go back up. So like here, I can do some centering. I can do a list just doing dot dash dash, all that sort of stuff. And I just have headings like you'd expect. So like here's a really simple example. So like a heading and then a quick little list. Super easy to read. Yeah. C-Web for Troff might be cool. What is C-Web? Let's see. I feel like it might seem really silly. This is probably something that I should know. Web literate programming using C programming. Unlike most documents. Oh, so it's like a literate programming sort of thing. I've actually seen. Oh man, where did I see that? I just think. Oh. Let's see here. Just give me a sec, and I can. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Untrue awk. I know that one of the big contributors. Just a sec. I need to increase my size. Is this the same guy that I'm thinking of? I think this might be thinking of. There we go. Never mind. This one's built around text info. For a second, I thought this one was Troff related, but this one actually just uses awk to do a lot of it. So maybe doing something like that would be kind of cool. Oh, I like that map. Yeah, here, I'll actually show you how it works. I've actually been working on these macros for a while. Here's the macros. So the idea behind it, I'm still like not too sure how I want to go about formatting it. But the idea behind it is that it's basically going to just be, so you basically use this. So let's see if I actually call it anywhere. Oh, there we go. So you're going to basically be able to do define your max heading level, and then you can actually define your own like general syntax for how you want it to make the heading look. And you can even define like different levels of the headings to look a different way. So for example, like if you want your first heading to be centered and underlined and in blue and in a different font size, then you can actually do that and have it basically automatically generate all the other ones. And you can have it have as many levels as you want. And the greatest thing about this is that it works with pretty much every version of Troff. because basically, like, as long as you don't do 1,000 heading levels, because its limitation is that the way that it actually creates all these headings, it has to use recursion. And at least with Graph, the limitation on how many levels of headings that you can, or the limitation of how many stacks, oh, what's it called? Stack traces? I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, there's a term for it that I'm immediately forgetting. But the limitation of how many times you can use recursion and recurse into itself is, like, I think about 1,000. So if you made 1,000 heading levels, it would completely break. But that would be madness. And I could not imagine trying to look at a file like that. But the cool thing about this is that the way that this actually works, I can actually have some really neat stuff. So, you know, like the whole big drive that I think a lot of people have to using org mode is just or like a big thing that people like about org mode is the way that folding works. And actually the way that I have this set up is I can actually have the same sort of folding. So I can fold all the first level headings, open it up. Oh, there's a second level heading, fold that up. So pretty similar. Obviously you could probably do more than this, but it's pretty cool. So you can actually get a lot of the functionality. So if I just fold it all up, I can go, okay, now I can look for the actual heading I'm looking for. Say I was looking for triggers. Okay, look in triggers. Oh, okay, now I've got all the subheadings, user-defined functions. Let's look at user-defined functions. Oh, Oh, here's like some SQL block that I have here. And this SQL is actually formatted using a preprocessor that I made that you guys can find on GitHub. Link to my GitHub in the description that you guys can check out. It's called ghighlight. It just, it's really simple. It just does some syntax highlighting using GNU's, what's it called? Source highlight program, I think is what it's called. You likely have it installed as a dependency for some of your other programs. But anyway, so that's pretty neat. You can do a lot of different stuff with it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of what I've been doing with that. I actually have, I have some extra macros. See, sorry, I just, side note here. This is one of the great things about Troff is that you can do some really cool things. So for example, like I didn't have a bow tie symbol, like, oh dear. Let's just see where I actually used it. Should be somewhat close. Oh, there you go. Oh. So I didn't actually have this symbol in my fonts. And so because of that, I couldn't actually do the bow tie symbol that you need to represent a join. But huh. One sec, I just gotta fix this now. This is gonna drive me crazy. And then just give it a second. All right, this is oh God, what did I do now? What did I break? Oh no, that should have worked. Interesting. Anyways, so I'm not really, oh, I guess this was the one that I changed, whoops. But anyways, so now I actually made a really jerry-rigged way of making the bow tie itself. So here is the bow tie, and basically that's all just defined up here using some really ugly Troff code, but because of how ugly it is, you can actually make your own symbols instead of having to rely on the font actually having it. Because sometimes installing a whole nother font just for one symbol is really annoying. Obviously, there's some symbols that would be a mess to try and do like this, but obviously a bow tie like this was pretty easy to implement. All right, let's check what we got. Any tips for generating graphs from text, GraphViz, or do you know some tool? Yeah, so so it kind of comes down to what you're trying to generate with the graph, but I do use GraphViz for like automata sort of stuff. So let's see here. Dot. So like something like this, GraphViz is really good for because it's nice and simple, but you could really make something like this with pick, which is what I usually use. But sometimes, actually, let's give you guys a really good example. CSC. Just a second. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this dot. I know my notes are a bit of a mess. Where did I use that? Study homework class one. Oh, I think it's in homework. Let's see here, did I use it in bad boy? No. Trying to do anything from memory like this is not a great call, I'm gonna be honest. So I don't know. You see, like I started trying to use it handwritten. Oh, I could have sworn I had used GraphViz in one of these, but I guess not. Oh, graphs. There we go. That took a while. So something like this, I would do using GraphViz because doing something this complex using pick would be a nightmare. So I use GraphViz for this sort of stuff, using like making an automata or anything like that. How big is the core of Troff in comparison to text? So the weird thing about it, so if you're using Graph, it's oh, just a sec. Oh, I don't know why I'm so cracky today. So the big thing about Troff is that there's quite a few implementations. So if you're using Troff, it is unbelievably small compared to LaTeX. Like I straight up, let's find out. Okay, cool. Let's see here. So this is the entire size. Here, one sec. Let's just make this a bit bigger. This is the entirety of Troff, which is probably the biggest one. So this was actually a terrible way to do this because I don't know if I actually can see. Oh yeah, there we go. Total usage. So this is 42 megabytes compiled with all the fonts and everything. I'm sure if I removed the fonts up here, yeah, like if I removed a lot of these fonts, I'd probably cut that down. Well, I'd cut that down about 27 megabytes. So this would be like half the size, less than half the size. So pretty small. And then let's actually text core, I think is what the package is called. Text. That being said, like text itself isn't actually too big, but I think just like to even get the actual core of it, oh man, there we go, text live. The text live core is about 100 megabytes more. And then to do a lot of the really neat stuff, you'd have to be using a lot more space. And Graph is a bit smaller. I guess it actually might be smaller than the size of Troff just because of the fonts that it came with. But if I didn't have, but not including the fonts, Troff is definitely smaller. Oh. Hope that answers your question. Sorry, that was a bit of a complex answer and a bit convoluted. So let me know if that didn't make any sense and I can brush through it really quick in a more simple way. I mean, what are the basic primitives? Everything is. Oh, like how big as in how complex, I guess you mean? Oh. Yeah, I guess like the main core of text is actually pretty small. It's just the fact that you kind of need to be doing a lot more stuff to basically. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm not too sure if you mean complexity or actual like size. Okay. Yeah, man. Org mode is pretty sweet. I could definitely see doing that with Emacs. Um, are you like talking about like compiling with because like org mode would compile to PDF with either Groff or LaTeX, so I'm not too sure which way you're how you're going about compiling it to PDF, but totally org mode's sick. Um, yeah, let me know if you mean complexity or anything like that. Oh, sorry. Um, hard to figure. Oh, why you have a G in front of your programs? Yeah. Yeah, that's just because of that's just like the trend for all the stuff that's made for Groff. So I just stuck with the trend, just to kind of make things a bit clear, because some of the stuff that it uses won't actually work properly for different implementations of Troff. Um, yeah, totally. I think Pandoc is like a neat project, but honestly, I don't use it too much anymore. All right, let's start doing something interesting with this because it seems like people are getting a bit bored. So let's go ahead and actually do something. Let's see here. What program could I work on? Got some Racket that maybe I'll work on, but sadly my Racket video, I thought my Racket video was gonna be pretty popular, but it's one of my least popular videos. Actually, I think it might currently be my least popular video. But anyways, let's go ahead. Let's just see what we've got here. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'll have to come up with things to talk about further on in streams ahead of time instead of trying to just do this off the top of my head because it obviously isn't very fun to watch, as you can probably guess. Um, Actually, I know that there's like a big hate for Rust, but I've actually considered looking at Rust. Obviously, I have a bit too much on my plate during the school semester. I never gave. I already see it. Um, yeah, I really like the formatting for yeah, all versions of ROF and all versions of Troff and everything, just because the idea behind it's pretty simple. That being said, the syntax can get a bit messy. I think that's like one of the biggest issues with Groff. Like Groff is probably the most popular implementation, and I think it's great, but it has like this terrible approach to it where instead of using it the way that most people used to use it, where you'd use recursion, it instead adds while loops and a bunch of other stuff. And so because of that, the actual like macro definitions get excessively long and then borderline of unreadable. Like you borderline have no idea what's going on in some of them, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, so that's kind of my at least thought process. So that's kind of one of the advantages of using one of the other tools, but also Groff's installed. So why not just use that unless you don't have it installed, which would be totally reasonable. There's lots of operating systems that actually don't use Groff anymore. Instead, they use Mandoc. But yeah. All right. I'm suddenly nervous to program in front of people. Okay, let's look at what C projects I have on hold that I haven't worked on. this is like really the only thing that I've worked on recently for a personal project. A lot of my other stuff has just been fun. Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of my biggest things that I'm not really into with Rust is the whole is like the size of it. It also has like the trade-off of like I think it still relies on LLVM instead of relying on itself, which I think that's great for a lot of projects, but I get kind of nervous about projects that aren't willing to maintain themselves as with their own compilers and everything. I think Rust is cool. I also like think like the biggest thing that holds it back is honestly like the community around it because Rust's package management and everything like that I find is just not my sort of thing. I think that's one of the reasons that Golang has become so popular is because of the fact that it has a really simple system for distributing packages. Dependencies will all be installed the same way. But Rust's like cargo and everything like that, I have just not had a good experience with it personally. Um, I gave up Rust on semester because too much as this semester is a bit softer. I really recommend Def replacement for C in the future. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it'll be like a replacement for C, for sure. Mostly just because of the fact that, especially when it comes to like embedded systems, which actually I can't remember if that was who was it that said that they're in computer engineering. Whoever said they're in computer engineering, if it's at least similar to my degree, you'll do like a decent amount of embedded systems and like I don't know. I think getting like it's more common that you'll see just GCC ported to whatever microcontroller you're using than most other processors, which I think is one of the biggest reasons that C is just going to stick around, especially because it's just super portable. And also it's like lower level stuff I find is a bit more developed, but that's just me. I haven't really looked at Rust's lower level stuff as much, but I find that at least with C, I have a better, it looks closer to what I would expect the assembly to turn out as, which is a big thing for lower level stuff. And I think that's one of the big things that's going to hold it back from really being the core for the Linux kernel and for a lot of other kernels. Rust experts, feel free to state your points. I'm totally happy to listen. I try not to just be like, I don't know, I try not to be closed-minded. You see that? Hey, what's up, Brian? Anyways, what I was gonna say was, yeah, I don't try not to be closed-minded on programming languages. I like it's very easy for people in like the like our sort of communities that they can just be like, nope, whatever language I know the best is the best option. And most of my programming that I've done at least well has been in C or C++. I know some people will hate on the fact that I've worked on C++ and people will be like, C++ is terrible. Which I honestly can kind of agree with. C++ can be kind of a mess to work with, but once you kind of get used to it, you see a lot of the benefits of it. You're not really like, with C, you're building from the ground up every single project almost. I especially found that with embedded systems, that's like super common, is that you're like just using the same data structures everywhere and you're having to just repeatedly use them. And obviously you can use libraries, but just because C doesn't have that abstraction of objects, I find that that can be a bit frustrating. Obviously JavaScript master race, rewrite the kernel in JavaScript. Yeah, I hear Dino is supposed to be more performance based, so we should just completely invest in Dino and just run the Linux kernel on top of BSD. Yeah, I think just run everything through Node and just run your kernel on top of another operating system. I like the direction that Zig is going. I'm not sure if it plays C, but it's solid. Totally. I actually don't know anything about Zig. You've just mentioned that. Zig. I'm gonna hope it's on GitHub or something. Linux kernel running through Edge. Zig programming language. I assume this is what you're talking about. Reusable software. Competes with C instead of depending on. Yeah, you see, that's like one of the biggest things that I prefer is like languages that can integrate with C go like a long way, at least in my opinion. But the biggest thing is like languages that just rely on C. I know like some people will hate me saying this, but like projects like Nim and other projects that just compile to C, I find just like I don't think there's going to be a big like lifespan for those sort of things because they're just relying on someone else. They're like if C, not that C would ever die off, but like they're never going to be able to get the same optimization. They're never going to be able to port their language without porting C, the C compiler. I just personally don't think that that's the best approach. And there's a lot of projects that try to do that. There's another one, Crystal, if that's correct. I think that's another programming language that tries to be like JavaScript like, or not JavaScript, Python like, but runs into the same sort of issues where it depends on C and then it's like always going to have requirements for C. I think like at least like that's something that I can give Rust is that it actually tries to like not try and be a workaround because inevitably you run into the issue that debugging just doesn't work like the way you'd hope it would when you're trying to use a programming language like that because you're doing 2 levels of compiling and then say like the first level of the compiler doesn't recognize an error but the second level does, then I feel like tracing back is just going to be a mess and then you're always trying to maintain that. That's just my thought. Yeah, those languages that act as a layer on top of C. Like I don't think that's bad to act to be something like that as a front end to C for like something simple. Like if you guys have watched some of my recent videos on DSLs, or actually I guess I've only released one of them, but I'm making more videos related to DSLs. One of my biggest things about that is that I think compiling to C from a DSL for something like that totally makes sense because it isn't really meant to be general purpose and it's not expecting to be ported to all these obscure platforms. But as a trade-off, it's going to be a limited language, and that's kind of the intention. So that's just kind of my thought. Yeah, all programs through all programs through Electron achieve maximum bloat. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how happy everybody else would be about that. I'm sure most of us are not super down for that. I try to like avoid, especially like I know it's like almost memed at this point to like avoid um uh yeah. Yeah, DSLs can honestly sometimes also be terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Like you look at let me just think of like I'm sure there's plenty of them. Like some languages are just not great to work with as DSLs. And that's why I think DSLs can be great, but they can also be a double-edged sword because then you're also having to work around somebody else's mindset. And sometimes people in the past, as much as a lot of stuff on my channel is like about these interesting projects from the past, sometimes the people in the past made some pretty big mistakes that they regret. Like I don't know if you guys have ever looked at some of the original Unix source code, but there is like an excessive amount of global variables and like they're like it's lucky that nothing bad really came out of it because like obviously there wasn't a lot of people working at the same time on the same sort of things. So they didn't really have to worry about it. Some people would say that what I'm saying is blasphemy, but honestly, like I feel like those sort of things could have easily become an issue, and that was just like issues they didn't have to worry about because there wasn't that many people that they had to work with. But when you're working in a project where you have a lot of other people to work with, those sort of choices can be pretty detrimental. So anyways, people in the past aren't always right, even as much as I wish that was the case. Because my channel would probably be very popular if everything from the past was the best thing in the world. Then at least all my content on these super obscure tools would actually be in demand. uh, um, oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, I remember I immediately lost track of. Sorry, one sec. I gotta go back and find talking about. Somebody was asking about graphics. I can't remember who it was now, but somebody was asking about graphics, and you can actually do some like really low level stuff with Groff and Troff. Just the biggest thing is that low level stuff like drawing stuff by hand can be a bit ugly to read. Lost on your database stuff on your screen. Yeah. yeah, I recently just took a class on databases and relational algebra and SQL. It was pretty cool. Our professor was like really cool guy. He like actually did a lot of interesting stuff talking about what was I gonna say? He did a lot of interesting stuff talking about like theories behind a lot of different stuff. And we did a lot of stuff with relational algebra, which as far as I can tell, no one seems to have any idea what the heck I'm talking about when I say relational algebra, which is kind of ironic considering that was like the biggest thing that he tested us on and like made every assignment about. Um, but he didn't really have us use like a GUI for any of it. He had us all do it through the command line and he said like for the programming assignments, he was just like, use whatever programming language you want. He gave us like Python example code to use because that's obviously like going to be something that a lot more people have access to, and also like is just more approachable. But no, I really recommend it. Like learning, like I think a big thing. I don't really know how much it matters what version of SQL you're using, but also like just like I use SQLite a decent amount now in some of my projects for school, and it's so convenient. I highly recommend it. Just like it's always available, SQLite at least, and lightweight as it comes with the term, and it's also just like very easy, and it's so much better than keeping things in a plain text file. That being said, a lot of the tools that I like to use I don't like it when things use SQLite and stuff like that because I'd like things to just be plain text, but it is really awesome and I recommend it if you guys are interested, especially because porting things to stuff like Android is a lot easier because SQLite's available everywhere, like I said before, and you don't need to have like what we used was Postgres for ours. We didn't use MySQL or what's it called, MariaDB. MariaDB and MySQL are pretty much the same thing. For those of you guys that haven't heard this, which I think is honestly like pretty funny, but I think a lot of people have probably heard about this, is that MySQL got purchased by Microsoft, and then the creator of MySQL actually started MariaDB and just took the open source code and made MariaDB open source anyways, which I find is like really funny. But yeah. Yeah, I think Tix is pretty neat. I personally just use I use Pick for almost everything. There's a lot of different tools you can use for different things. There's actually here, one sec. Let's go. I think it's Tpick. Let's see if this is what I was talking about. No, not Tpick. I'm looking for just a sec, I'll find it. It's down. I know it's down. I hate that I have to like find it every single Dpick. Oh my god. Dpick, Tpick, same thing. I highly recommend if you guys are interested in just doing like fairly simple graphics, looking at Dpick. It's actually really cool, and it doesn't have it's not like other versions of Pick that rely on Troff. It can actually just produce general purpose images, and it also like works with LaTeX, which is pretty sweet. Imagine Tix drawing giving me PTSD. Then again, Inkscape. Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I think Inkscape is kind of terrifying. Every time I use Inkscape, I just like never have a good time using Inkscape. But instead, I just use. There's a lot of other tools that can make SVGs, and in fact, there's like somebody pointed this out actually recently on one of my other videos. There's actually a thing, Picture. This is like a super cool project. This is another one related to that that you guys should definitely take a look at. Picture basically allows you to let's see here. Picture basically allows you to do like some really interesting stuff involving like generating SVGs, but it's also meant to be like baked into websites and stuff like that. So it removes some of the sketchy parts of using Pic. So like you can't execute a command from the shell through it or anything like that. Which may sound bad, but honestly, like security is important. That would be kind of crazy. But because of this, you can have like some really cool stuff. And I've seen some stuff like people actually will use it to generate SVGs to include in like GitHub conversations. So for example, like if I was talking and I was like trying to explain something to someone, and sometimes like saying a way that things connect to each other is kind of difficult, but you can actually do like some special drawings with it and then generate an SVG and send that to them. Which is so cool, at least like for me. I don't know. But there's some really cool examples. Actually, here's some example syntax or examples that they use. But yeah, anyways. Yeah, anyways, there's some really cool stuff. Oh, wait, here's actually, I think this is what I'm looking for. Yeah, here we go. So here's my dark mode kind of makes this look a bit weird. Let's see if I actually way too. Dark mode. All right, well, you can do some really neat stuff with this, and you can actually do a bunch of different stuff. So say, for example, oh, and it also, the greatest thing about this, sorry, I forgot to mention, because pick in Troff has this huge negative for a lot of people in the fact that it doesn't automatically fit the text, because the way that it works, it doesn't actually know what size the text actually is, which is kind of annoying. But with something like this and dpick, you can actually have it automatically fit the size of whatever text it is. So drawing like fairly simple diagrams is unbelievably simple, especially compared to using something like ticks, because you can pretty much do it in a one-liner. Like, for example, let's just give you an example. So box, text. Oh, this is really awkward. Arrow. This is kind of weird to do in my browser, but box, troff. This is just a really simple example. Arrow, box, output. And then this is just a really simple example, but let's go ahead and preview that. Oh, what did I mess up? Box, text. Oh. And then here's just like a really simple output. It's just like a bunch of boxes. And then you could change these to ellipses. You could change it to a circle. I'm not going to do that too much because I don't want to embarrass myself by accidentally misspelling something, because that would be super awkward. Let's see here. What else we got? Oh, nice. You're taking it out as fast right now. Pretty cool. The one guy that did it in APL. Not too sure what APL actually is. I feel like I should know this, but I actually say that about everything though, so I don't know. SQLite with totally. Yeah, I think 9p is actually really cool. I've thought about doing a video on 9p for a while, but I haven't really figured out a good way to like cover, because it's such a broad topic that there's just so much you could cover. And that's basically the biggest thing that's held me away from it. And that's like the same thing with a lot of the topics that I haven't actually covered, is purely because of that. I haven't actually really known like which way I should approach it. Should I try and just explain it really simply? Because like there are like a lot of like there's content creators like Luke Smith is like one of the people that I feel like a lot of people, especially around this sort of community, have seen. And he just does like a lot of like, his videos are very like simple in the idea of it. The programming language, most one line. GPL language. It's kind of a shame that you guys can't just post links on the YouTube channel. Actually, I don't know. There might be a way to do that, but I feel like they don't allow you to do that, which I think is just kind of silly, personally. AVL. Let's just look at their hello world. Oh, Jesus. Immediately off to the races. Oh, God. All right, what am I looking at? Multi-dimensional array, graphic symbols. Huh. So is it kind of similar to, oh wait, spreadsheets, functional programming. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I should take more of a look at this. I'm trying to actually figure out, because they don't really mention too much about it. Seems pretty cool though. Microcomputers. APL. I'm trying to see. I guess you actually did. At most one-liners. It's known for its truth. I believe it. Maybe I'll look into this. I think it'd be kind of interesting to look at. I've never actually heard of it, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I kind of like after. I guess if you guys have ever used Racket before, you know that it's like pretty common to use like symbols, like the actual lambda symbol in the syntax, which I find kind of cool. So maybe learning another obscure. I just like learning. I'm just a dork at heart, and that's why I like learning about all these cool things. So honestly, like learning something. That being said, this also could be like a death sentence, and I could just hate it completely. I don't know. No, I'll have to look into this after this. Actually, um, I completely forgot that I even had like a script. I have a script where I can just do GN and it will like add a note for me for like something, but I never think to use it for some reason. I don't know what it is. But anyways, that just came to mind. Anyways, I've been thinking about switching to OpenDef. Yeah, I totally. Oh, cool. I totally agree about like the whole BSD approach. I've thought about actually going that route before. Like the biggest thing that stopped me from using OpenBSD is the like lack of support. There's like a lack of like certain Qt support, which has stopped QBrowser from working. And I'm not gonna lie, QBrowser is it's like I need QBrowser. I refuse to use other browsers if I can because like it's just I find it just so convenient. I know that like people would say, oh, there's Vim bindings in other browsers, but QBrowser just does it so well. It's so hard to beat, in my opinion. I find like a lot of the advantages are lost on other browsers personally. And then another thing that stopped me is purely because of using what's it called? Oh yeah, because of the fact that it doesn't have like good Bluetooth support isn't really a big thing for me, but also not being able to use Zoom, which is what I need for my university. Luckily, my university is like like I can use Linux for pretty much everything, but the biggest drawback is that we have to use Zoom, and since Zoom isn't available on BSD, it's pretty much a no-go. I don't really want to be jumping back and forth between it. Like I know a guy who's actually in my Discord server who runs OpenBSD. He's a super cool guy. Highly recommend chatting with him. My Discord is actually linked in the description for those of you guys that want to join. But I'll shout him out later on. Actually, I don't know if it's sketch to open up my Discord, but yeah, he's actually. Let's just go ahead. Find out if I regret it. Put it off to the side for a sec. All right. Anyways, so if I go to my actual Discord, let's see here. Is he online? No, he's not. This guy, Chuck. That guy on my Discord server is actually like super cool guy. He actually goes to the same university as me, and he also runs OpenBSD. But he has like the same sort of issues. He has to run Windows just to like go to his lectures, which is almost the exact opposite of what I want. I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't just throw Linux on instead, but I guess that's just how it is. But yeah. Anyways, that's that. Now you guys know what Discord servers I'm in. That's functional programming for it. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like languages, that's like the one thing that I like about functional programming is the whole like everything's just like a quick one-liner. Pretty sick. Well, not a one-liner, but everything is just like very concise. I haven't done too much with it. Most of my functional programming has been with Racket, which I know some would say is not fully functional. But yeah, some people wouldn't say Racket's like a completely functional language. Some people would also say that it is not a scheme or anything like that because it has all this weird extra features that it adds in, but I think it's really cool. But I've never really gotten into like the more math-based ones. One of the big ones that I've been kind of interested in looking at is OCaml or SML, which have like a math-based approach, but they're also typed. And I kind of I think I would be pretty into that. I never really got into Haskell just because I. Oh, I guess the video probably got a bit choppy there. Anyways, so oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I think I'll probably look at something like SML or OCaml, just because I don't know Haskell and there's another mathy one that I can't think of, but Haskell just doesn't really click with me personally. But I know that there are people out there that love it, and good on them. It's just not my sort of thing. Maybe in a future video, if I give it another try and I like it, maybe I'll do like a little stream of me trying out Haskell. I think that might be pretty interesting. Let me know what you guys think of that. Do you guys want a video like that? A video of me trying out a language that I'm not used to? I don't really know how all that would work, just because like I often, especially for like the first time I'm looking at a language, if I'm taking it for a class, I'd rather have the professor introduce me just because I think that's a nice way to get started. But if not, then I usually just try and find like a video on it and watch an introductory video, and then from there I go into the docs and just learn from that. But personally, I find that sort of stuff to be pretty worth it. Oh yeah, okay, let's see where we're at. Really old. Custom keyboard. Oh, APL was originally developed for a custom keyboard, if I recall. That's really interesting. Huh, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, that's cool. Now you guys have piqued my interest, even though I feel like I shouldn't be that into it. Yeah, I haven't really looked too much into like the strange languages that are actually meant to be like a language themselves. Like I've looked at some strange ones that are, like I said before, like DSLs and stuff like that, but I haven't really looked at a lot of those sort of things. I actually one thing I actually did, I don't know if I have it on this computer, just because like I said before, I recently switched, but I had like some really funny I don't know if I can actually say this on. I guess I'm not monetized, so it doesn't really matter. Like brainfuck the language. I actually like programmed a bit with that just to like mess around. I made some really like simple programs, but it's really cool. It's kind of like a neat way to look at like a Turing complete language, because it's almost like exactly the definition of a Turing machine, but as a language, which is really cool. And pretty interesting. Actually, I wonder if there's any language that's like tries to do that with lambda calculus. I'm trying to think of how to search this. Like lambda calculus. Oh wait, is it? I think it's called brainfuck. Definitely not gonna like that. YouTube's definitely gonna notice the text, at least if they didn't recognize the voice. Lambda calculus with brainfuck for side effect. Let's see what the chat's saying. Is anyone familiar with Fortran law? In the research, huh? I've only like seen Fortran. I've never actually tried to program with it. I know like fun facts about it, like the fact that Fortran is like a language that can actually be faster than C at specific computation stuff, which is kind of interesting. I think there are actually probably languages out there that can do the same sort of thing, but I've always found that sort of interesting that Fortran had that advantage over it. But I haven't used it myself. From what I've seen of it, it's like very assembly-like in the way that its approach was. Like you can definitely tell that it was written before languages like C came along. It has like a lot of like the idea of a go-to was probably a lot more popular back then. So it kind of seems like it's encouraging that sort of a workflow. But yeah, anyways, that's all I know about it. I'm definitely no expert, far from it, in fact. Bill and friends are very pro. Yeah, once again, kind of not a big fan of the whole. I hope this isn't a trap. doing entering in this URL right now. This is always this is a danger zone move. This is how you run into trouble. Slash. Oh, this is so small even for me. I think that's right. Okay. There we go. Oh. Okay, I'll save that for later to look at. Let's just take a little quick look at it. Or a monad. Oh, it is very mathy already. Huh. Oh god, this syntax is like this would give like me an aneurysm just to look at. If I had no idea what, like if I just was dropped onto something and I had to just like look at this by hand, this would be terrible. Like I don't know if any of you guys that have been in university or are in university have ever had your professor make your exam purely based off of what's it called? Off of writing like your code by hand. That's what like a ton of professors do at my university, which kind of sucks. But it's but yeah, that's like one of the big things that I could not imagine doing with this. I guess Python is honestly worse to do for something like that, just because showing indentation can be like a huge mess sometimes. But yeah, this would be really difficult to just write by hand and keep in mind. But I guess since it's so small, it'd be really easy to check. So double-sided sword there. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at what else we're looking at. You could even do some hardcore clickbait like noob trust. Yeah, I try not to do clickbait titles. But just because I don't know, I don't like them. I find it frustrating when like I don't know. I just find that it how would I say this? I feel like it's just like I don't like the idea of like the misleading portion of it, if that makes any sense. Wow, this is just super. Oh, sorry, I'm just looking back and forth with the language. But I really just am not a big fan of like making clickbait titles. Like I'm sure I'd be a lot better off if I started doing that, and the channel could probably grow a lot faster. But that's one thing that like I don't know. I just am not interested in. I find that it just like hurts your credibility, and like it's just like I don't know. Like I don't want to like I'm not gonna name names, but when people do like oh, I've used this tool a decent amount, but I don't really know it super well. But this tool is a way of life, and I've got this really cool thing that you need to know. Or like 10 reasons why you should be doing this. That stuff just does not, I just do not like making content like that. But honestly, like, I don't know. That being said, I can sell my soul if I need to. All right. Apparently 4chan is faster. Yeah, actually I think that's where I heard about Fortran was in like a linear algebra class was where we were talking about it a lot. One of the professors was talking about how they used Fortran at one of his places where he worked, and I think that's where I heard about it. Maybe might have also been in like one of my introductory computer science classes, but yeah. Let's see here. The majority of Unix YouTube has been called out. Yeah, I try not to. I feel like I'm also like, especially in chats, like if you guys have ever seen me in like other Discords, I try to like avoid keeping my Discord. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my opinions are not like controversial. I almost feel like they're anti-controversial, but which almost is like kind of shitty. I mean, bad. Sorry, try not to swear on my channel because I feel like that. Actually, I don't really think it's gonna matter too much. But anyways, yeah, I feel like a lot of my content is just like I don't know. I don't really like the idea of like for example, like a lot of YouTubers will make like a this thing is bad, here's why, or you should be using this tool instead of this tool. And you can see like at the start of when I started making YouTube videos, my content kind of started to sound like that. But I honestly just like I don't like it. I don't like the idea of like trying to convince people that they've made a bad choice when I can't like I can argue why I think I like my approach, but I can't like tell you that you're wrong for not using it, because honestly, like a lot of these tools that I use are not things that will be perfect for everybody. Some people literally can't even use some of the tools that I use, and that's kind of one of the, like literally can't use it as in like physically, like maybe for example, like they can only use things one-handed. Trying to type would obviously not be a good call. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Try not to rant. um, Another is fourth. Oh, I think I looked at fourth actually in the past. I've fourth. What is the fourth program? Yeah, I'm really interested in like doing videos on like these obscure sort of things, because like honestly, like especially for like some stuff, like I've wanted to do oh, what's it called? Oh, meta post. If you guys know what meta post is, that was like one of the videos that I originally was interested in doing a video on. I was also going to do a video on GraphViz, and I probably will soon, but those are the big things. Is that there's like, I just really like learning about all these cool languages, and MetaPost is another example of one of those just like weird languages, and it has like an interesting approach. If you guys have ever seen MetaPost, it's actually really cool. That being said, I think you can write it in a really simple way, but it's actually really interesting how a lot of people write it, because a lot of people that write with it actually do like interesting like math comparison ways of actually writing it. So it's a lot more mathematics and geometry based and everything. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, so if you guys have ever seen that sort of stuff, it's pretty cool. I was like, oh dear, my VR account is going down. I'm clearly boring the tears out of everybody here, talking about these obscure things. All right, anyways, I usually just like to see. I don't know about you guys, but how do you guys feel about syntax for languages? Like, if you see a syntax and you don't like it, do you just like immediately like, are you like turned off at the start? Because I've tried to not be like that, but there's some languages that like the syntax just like makes me not as like make me less into it. I'm sure I like could be into it, but like for example, like a big one was Rust. I didn't really like the syntax for it, and I know some people may have a different opinion on this, but like Golang, and I understand now that I understand why it's actually like the syntax is the way it is. I don't mind it as much, but that was like a big thing for me was the yeah, sometimes people just gotta go. Totally. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so totally. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. um, you'll see that a lot with me. I have like syntax for shell scripts, lol. Yeah, like syntax. Sorry, that's what I was talking about. One of the other languages that really bothered me was Golang, but the thing that I realized was that the reason that Golang has its kind of strange syntax compared to like other C-like languages, especially because people say, and like even the creators say that the syntax and the design of the language is based around C, is purely just to make it compile faster. And once I found that out, I was a lot more willing to like be like, okay, that's totally fine. I'm willing to work with some of these weird quirks of the syntax. That being said, I'm not like a Golang programmer, but especially in the fields that I'm interested in, I'm a bit more interested in distributed systems at the moment, and I think that's like a big place that Golang is going to stand out pretty soon. But anyways, that's just my thoughts. I think the syntax is a bit ugly, but at least you can work with it. Quickly even. Do you speak any other languages? No. I feel like I should, like especially like I'm like Canadian, so in Canada like it's pretty common that people at least know a bit of French, but I know like none of it. And my mom like spent a lot of her time growing up in like Quebec. I think my dad lived in Quebec for a bit, and my grandparents also like lived in Quebec for a bit. But I speak like no French, and I've attempted to learn it before, but I am just like I don't know. It's one of those things that I just like need those. That's the sort of thing where it's like I need like a reward. I need an end goal, and really, when my end goal is just to be able to speak French, that's just like such a long term sort of thing. Um, but yeah, do any of you guys speak any interesting languages? Actually, it's kind of funny to think that I am interested in learning all these obscure programming languages, but I'm not willing to learn any any actual languages speaking wise. But I know there's like big. Actually, I kind of I like some parts of the ideas of it. Especially, I don't know if you guys have ever taken any courses on like the theory of computation, but I find part like the crossover between that and linguistics is like super interesting. And so that's something that actually kind of got me into it. But obviously, language theory, like learning anything language theory based doesn't mean that you'll ever learn any actual speaking language at all. Like I'm sure eventually you would, but definitely not if you're just learning it on the side, I could imagine. But I find that stuff really interesting. So maybe if I can find a way to teach myself a language related to like relating those two things together, maybe I'll actually be able to convince myself to do it. Smart goals, dude. Yeah, honestly, I should probably do something like that. I don't know. Actually, I should probably try and like figure out. I'm just trying to like I don't know how to set goals for something like that. Trying to learn my lady's family. Oh wow. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I don't know. Now I'm like maybe if I learned like a language where I had somebody that I would be able to talk to with, that'd be pretty interesting. I lived with a guy who was from Quebec, which is like the part of Canada that speaks French. I feel like most actually I don't really know. Do people outside of Canada know that sort of stuff? I have really no idea. But I like lived with a guy at a training camp for this like sport I used to do. And he spoke French, and that was kind of like a little motivation was that I could kind of follow what he was saying. But I realized very quickly that I was not very good at pronouncing things with like a French accent. Like especially if you guys have ever done like the Duolingo route, that was like one thing that I ran into like a bunch was not being able to um, like pronounce things the way they wanted me to. And I still pronounce like some English words like weird just because like I don't know. That's just how I grew up thinking of how it was, even though it's like not even how it's spelled. Like for example, like exit, I would say like exit, or pillow, or like pillow, but it's like pillow. I don't know. There's a few things that oh nice, you're using Duolingo right now. Yeah, there you go. I was are you liking Duolingo? Maybe I just didn't stick it out. I feel like especially with like phone apps, I am just so bad at like keeping track of it because I especially right now, like I'm not really using my phone too often. So I don't know, get in the boot. Oh, get in. Um, but yeah. Yeah, trying to hold a conversation would probably be a pretty good one. I think if I really wanted to learn a language, maybe I would just like I feel like if I was able to convince myself, I'd have to just like move to Quebec to force myself to learn French. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to speak very well. But I couldn't live in like Montreal. I don't know. I guess is anyone in the chat Canadian? I'd be kind of surprised, but especially because my viewers are like very few of my viewers are Canadian. But yeah, here just a sec. Actually, I'm just gonna check and see if I even have Duolingo still installed. Uh, um, sorry, replying. Obviously, not a good way to keep people interested in the stream is just doing a quick text. I feel like I feel like the bird's death. One sec. I just realized I'm gonna have like a bunch of buzzing going on in a sec. All right, there we go. All right. If you calm, use. Yeah, you don't need the Duolingo app. I feel like just part of it is that like I need it to be available all the time. Like that's why, like I was saying before, for those of you guys that were at the start of this, why I use Orgsly, the program I use to keep track of my org mode notes, is purely because it like has like a very nice widget, and I just need to be able to see it all the time to remind me to do it. Um, but yeah, but like for a website, I have to go to the website. As much as that sounds like a minor thing, I just like it's so much easier to put off versus if it's right in front of you, you're like, oh, I should do this. But yeah, I gotta set some better. I gotta be better at goal setting. I've kind of like gone down in my goal setting, especially right now because I'm on my break for university, and I start back up on the 11th. So right now I'm right there. So I'm on my like little break mode. So I've been really bad at keeping track of my goals. Yeah, I could use the website directly. Let's see if I skipped over any of these comments, by the way. Hmm. Australian Aboriginal language. Interesting. Um, I have no idea what that sounds like. I've never actually been to Australia, but my sister lived there for a while, which was pretty cool. Um, my sister's like traveling just all over the place. Oh, sorry. This is like Camel Trader. Sorry, for a while ago you said I don't see how that has anything to do. Let's scroll back up. I don't see how that has anything to do with the advantage in compile time. Wasn't it about automatic place semicolon placement? And so there's some parts of it that are like that. Like some parts are meant for that part of it, but another part is actually the like stuff like having uh, certain things in a certain order just like makes it easier because instead of like reading the return, um, like instead of needing to read the return at the end of the function, the compiler will immediately know what it's supposed to be returning, and then that should be able to give you an error faster. I think is part of the idea of it. Um, just look at some example code. I don't know if I really have anything big on my. Oh so part of it. Sorry, I'm just like looking at it now. I remember like part of it was like having being able to look at the start of the line and being able to see that it's a function. I guess was part of what it had to do. Now I'm like questioning parts of it. But the biggest thing was not having overlapping usage of specific things. So for example, like the if statements not having braces or brackets was partly due to that because then it's just like it cuts out the need for reusing the same symbol. I think is part of it. Now I'm like questioning some of my statements, so I should probably fact check before I say some things. But since this is a stream, people can fact check me a bit less. So you guys can go ahead and check it out and let me know. Which is kind of the advantage of streaming. Like I feel like especially with my stream with my videos, I try to be as like terminology wise at least accurate as possible. Because I know that that's just like that's something that like I can be really bad about, like criticizing, like especially when I watch a video and someone just like completely misuses a like actual term or they say like a fact that isn't a fact. Like something that really bothered me for a while was the oh, what was it? It was like the whole like when Qt browser, people would bring up Qt browser to like YouTubers, and then they'd be like, oh well, Qt browser uses WebKit GTK, even though like it hadn't used or not WebKit GTK. Well, I guess they would say that too. That was also common was that they would say that, but that was also misinformed. But they would all be saying like WebKit GTK just uses Qt WebKit, which is not super stable or super fast, which is just kind of frustrating because like honestly at the time that a lot of people were saying that, that was like years after they had stopped supporting that, and they had moved completely over to web Qt web engine, I think is what it is called now. I can't check ahead of time now because I'm recording live, but you get the idea. But that's kind of the big thing with that sort of stuff. I've just never really been a big fan of it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry for the off-topic question. Do not be sorry for the off-topic question because I am completely I ran out of things to talk about for a sec, so that's kind of a relief that you said brought up an off-topic question. How to change the URL parameter on the fly. Oh, so like for example, I'm assuming when you say changing it on the fly, like the way that you said that. So like say we're here, we're at this URL, and you could just do edit URL, and then it will open it up in your text editor. And then like say for example, I just wanted to go to, then there you go. That's how you can do it. At least that's how I've usually done it. I think that's pretty much the most common way to do it. There might be a better one. URL. But that's probably the best one I know of. Sec. Yeah, edit URL I think is the best option, at least off the top of my head. I think Qt uses. Yeah, so the Qt web engine actually uses, so it basically, it's like a somewhat forked version of, there's actually, I think I saw a talk on it. Let's see if I can find the talk. But basically the way that it works is it just rips out a lot of the features of Chromium and just gets most of Blink's features. So instead of being like purely Chromium based like Opera and all the other options, instead of taking the whole core of it, it instead just takes like the bare minimum of it that it can. And it makes it more like a library, and then it adds like all the Qt extra features. If you guys have ever programmed with Qt stuff, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But that's kind of how it works. So it is Blink based. Whew. It is Blink based. So that is correct. It's like some people say it's Chromium based, some people say it's Blink based, which are both. Blink is part of Chromium, but you get the idea. The idea is mostly that like it takes a bit more than just Blink, but it doesn't go to the extent of a lot of the other options. Yeah. Totally. Happy to explain. Let's see here. I don't know. I've thought about making a video. Actually, speaking of Qt browser, let me know if this is a bit too lame of a topic. I've thought about making a video on Qt browser's new like Brave ad blocking, because my first video on Qt browser is now like serves like no use, because, well, not serves no use, but the ad blocking that I had mentioned in there, it now just doesn't really have much of an advantage. If that makes sense, because like, well, now also YouTube, I don't know how, I guess like they just figured out, because I had it working for years, the YouTube ad blocking, but now it no longer works almost immediately after I make my video, which is kind of annoying. But luckily now Qt browser has the Brave features built into it. I don't know why, but my experience with WebKit, GTK engines, browsers are terrible. I stick to Firefox. Yeah, I kind of agree. I've like looked at WebKit, GTK. Is that what it is? And I'm like questioning. I think that's the way that it's supposed to be said. Because there's like there's a lot of different, there's like 3 versions of it, because one of them is like GTK WebKit, and then there's WebKit GTK2, or WebKit. Oh, jeez. Is it WebKit 2 GTK? Whatever. Anyways, they're very similar. But they all, run into a lot of issues. Like Surf. I used Surf for like a long time, like longer than I feel like a lot of other people would use Surf. Like the big one but I like used it for like, I'm trying to think of how long I would have used it for. I used it for like probably about 6 months, as my like primary browser. And I really liked the fact that it was like fully programmable and all that sort of stuff, but I kind of ran into like a huge issue with it, which was just WebKit GTK itself. Like I just ran into issues with it being unstable and crashing all the time, even if I just used the base version. That being said, honestly, I can't blame it, because I feel like it's just expecting us to use more of the features than it actually is in Surf. Also, Surf is like pretty much no longer being developed because the actual dev stopped working on the project. So that's kind of the part of it. Yeah, I don't know. I think the slowness isn't really too big of a deal for me. Like, actually, I don't think I don't even have Surf installed, but yeah, I don't really find the speed to be too much of a negative for me, because opening up most pages isn't too bad. YouTube is pretty bad. Like anything that uses a lot of JavaScript is an issue. But besides that, like I didn't really have too much of an issue with speed, because when I played videos, I just used MPV for all of it. When I did like, yeah, all that sort of stuff. But now just so many features have been broken due to changing APIs, and that's just kind of how it is in the web world. APIs change, things break. It's awful. But that's just how it is. I really like it, especially after the improvements in ad blocking. But do you plan to do more videos on Qt browser? Yeah, I would. I will probably do like a few more videos on Qt browser. I don't know. Like I said before, I don't like doing content that's similar to other YouTubers. And honestly, when I made my it's funny because that Qt browser video became really popular, and I kind of hate myself for it because I like made the video knowing that another YouTuber had talked about it recently, and I was like, you know what? I've wanted to make a video on this for a while. I might as well do it now and just see how it does. But and then it did like really well for my channel, which is kind of funny to think. So obviously, copying or not copying, I didn't copy, but doing content similar to other YouTubers obviously does help with how popular they are. So maybe I'll do like another video on it, but I would really want to find something more unique to what I've done with it. But yeah, I think it definitely does. It definitely deserves a lot more talk because it is just like a great option. JavaScript can't break on me if I can't run Java. That's, you know what, life hack, genius. Like especially actually when we were talking about it being slow, like a big thing for me too is that I use like terminal options for most of my different websites and stuff like that. So maybe that's why I didn't realize the slowness as much. Because like for example, like I didn't like instead of going onto YouTube for at least at the time when I was doing that, I would just use my RSS feed to manage my YouTube videos, and then for like Reddit, I would do that sort of stuff. The university websites were pretty simple, so they didn't really take too long to work around. And for the most part, I just made like bookmarks for every single page on the university website, so I didn't have to like click around too much, and that kept things speedy. But that being like, I wish Surf was still developed because I feel like I learned a ton of neat things that maybe I would show off. And I had some really interesting stuff that I was considering talking about, but obviously a lot of those features and cool things are now of no use because it's pretty much like, at least right now, I'd say like Surf is a waste of time to try and use, just purely because like as much as like I think it's really cool, you know, that's big negative. Anyways, yeah, yeah, especially some stuff I actually found that it was like quicker than a lot of the other options, but yeah, sadly, just some things were not developed as thoroughly as other options, and it just wasn't very fast. I'd love to see something like that, like done with oh, what is it? Like like NetSurf's web engine. I feel like this would be kind of like, I know like this will never happen, but this would be so cool to see somebody use the web engine. I forget what they actually call it, but the web engine that they actually use in NetSurf. It would be super cool to actually see somebody do. Yeah, using some of the libraries that they use in NetSurf, it would be really cool to actually see somebody integrate something like that into Surf, and just replace WebKit GTK completely. I would be 100% behind that. If anybody is interested in doing something like that and is willing to put in the time to like work on it, I'd be happy to like join in and help out any way I can. Because yeah, it seems like a really cool idea. I don't think we'll actually see. Like I don't think I don't think it's very good for everything. Like I don't think I have net for Surf installed net. I was looking at it pretty recently actually. Let's just install. Hopefully this doesn't just like kill my video feed poorly because of all this downloading. But yeah, so for those of you guys that haven't seen NetSurf before, this is kind of what it looks like. But I was like thinking it'd be so cool to like see somebody make content, or not make content, make a version of Surf that was based around the same web engine as this. But like I don't think if we go to actually I don't think you even need that anymore. I don't think YouTube works on it at all. Yep. Okay. Well, can confirm. uh, tools. Let's see if maybe there's something disabled. Provider. I'm not really gonna try and configure this because I'm not gonna use it, but maybe I would if I was dedicated enough, but I am not. I am not that guy, sadly. Privacy. Content might be what we're looking. Enable JavaScript. Oof. I don't know if I have to add it for. Okay. Let's see what happens if I just do. Actually, I don't know if there's actually key bindings that are normal. Sorry, just a sec. Oh, did it just reload? All right, let's try this again. Give you one last try. Let's see if YouTube works now. Nope. Yep, still not working. All right, well, either way, it'd be pretty cool. But as you guys can see, it's obviously not perfect. Bring Max. ET and Luke just. Yeah. Like I think DT is definitely an important part of the community because I feel like he definitely gets a lot of people involved in this sort of stuff. He's definitely, I think he is like one of the biggest people in this sort of a community. In like I don't want to say like the Linux community because like technically not all of this is Linux specific. Running BSD or anything is technically like still in the same community. I try to be like the least exclusive in the community. I try not to be exclusive to who is and who isn't in the community because I think I think if you like the command line, that's one of the biggest things for me that makes me like it. I know DT is probably the biggest advocate for like the whole FOSS movement sort of thing. So it's like really great to have him around. But yeah, he doesn't really go very in depth with a lot of his videos, which I totally makes sense. Like a lot of stuff too, like he doesn't have like people aren't machines. They don't have enough time to like look a ton into one specific program and then explain a ton of its features and get all of that out of it. Like it's pretty, like you don't have infinite time. So I totally get why he can't go super in depth with a lot of it. But that's why there's other channels out there and hopefully I can fill some of that gap on some of it. So yeah, I feel like at the same time as when I say I don't like copying content, but I'm not really copying content. I still just don't, I don't know. I feel like you guys could kind of relate in like the idea of like, I'd rather try my best to make my own content that is separate from it, but that seems to be like a really hard way to expand. Like a big example would be like, this isn't a negative. I'm just saying this is just like a big example would be like some people like Mental Overflow seems like a really good guy, has really interesting content on his channel. It's not an attack, don't worry. But he did a lot of the sort of stuff that was like, I don't know, he did a bunch of videos on DWM and everything like that, and it gained a lot of traction. So I think it goes a long way to go that route. But at the same time, like the community does not need more people doing the same thing. So if I think the way that it is right now, like Mental Overflow, I'm just talking about YouTubers, which is obviously not what you want to do. But I think like Mental Overflow fills in a great gap because he covers a lot of like network related stuff on top of that. So I think that's great. But obviously, if I just did the same stuff as him, I'd obviously not be helping out the community at all. Yeah. Actually, I was talking about this before. I might as well show you guys some of the stuff with MetaPost and why I was looking at it. Not too sure if you guys will actually be interested in this, but I thought it was pretty neat, so I thought I'd show off some of the stuff. So here's some of the stuff that you could do with it. So you can actually do some pretty interesting 3D stuff, but as you guys can see, like its syntax can get a bit terrifying. But I'm sure you guys could probably guess. That intrigues me, based on at least what I'm sure you guys have heard me say so far. Is that I get interested in this sort of stuff. But yeah. Anyways, this is like what I was kind of looking at, especially because like Pick, the tool that I use for a lot of my graphic stuff, like has its holdback, has its oh yeah, Mental Outlaw. Sorry, I said Overflow, didn't I? I don't know why. I've said that before too. I've said mental overflow. Is there even a YouTuber called Mental Overflow? But Mental Outlaw is what I meant. I haven't watched a lot of his videos recently, so that might be why I've kind of forgotten his name. But he makes some interesting stuff. Oh yeah, I think Luke Smith definitely is one of the most influential ones. I think he like pretty much single-handedly like made the space a lot more, brought in a lot more people and everything like that. Like whether or not I know like some people have pretty strong opinions about Luke Smith, especially because of his like some of his rants and stuff. But for the most part, it's pretty hard to argue that he hasn't helped out like build up more of a community around this. And honestly, he's like one of the biggest things that I think got a lot of people even making content and stuff like that. So I think it's like, yeah, he's totally influential. I mean, more like DTE was just around before then, and got a lot of people interested in that sort of stuff. Like now, DT's content has definitely shifted closer to being similar to Luke Smith. But that's neither here nor there. Like sometimes it's a bit. I know that this is probably gonna upset someone, but I know that it gets sometimes it gets a bit on the nose where it'll be like Luke Smith releases a video and then 2 days later Luke's like DT has a video on almost the exact same topic, but that's just how it is. People gotta gain it, you know, work the numbers. Yeah, the controversial part, honestly, on both of them, some people feel pretty controversial towards both of them, but yeah, like I don't know, I still like I don't really watch much of their content anymore. But I feel like that's just kind of like how it is. Like I feel like a lot of YouTubers will they'll watch YouTube content, but as soon as they start making it, the desire to watch other people's content like goes down. Which is like totally reasonable. And I don't really blame anybody for that. I like definitely watch less people's content than I used to. Also, I totally forgot to anyways, I totally forgot to shout out Brian Jenks. Commented up a bit earlier if you guys scroll up, but you guys should check out his channel. He's been a big help in making my channel, so I figured I should give him a little shout out. Say that Gavin sent you, so that way he feels like I mentioned it. Or don't. No need to. But yeah. Anyways, now I'm literally just looking at source code, which is pretty boring. Yeah. He's influential. One sec. Which one are you talking about? Yeah, also another one that becoming a Plan 9 Luddite. Yeah, I've seen that it's like gained a lot of Plan 9's gained a lot of traction. I've only done like a bit of content on it, partly because like I went through a phase where I tried to run it on my main system, which just did not go very well. Like I just constantly ran into like things where I just hadn't considered other like things that I'd have to work around and stuff like that, like especially with web related stuff. And so I just basically ended up doing everything through like their like alternative to KVM. I can't remember what it's called. And I did that a while ago, but I gave up super quick, so I can't really say too much on the topic. But I've done a decent amount of videos on it, but it's all been like super surface level. And I've considered going further, but like I know that other YouTubers are planning on doing something similar. So I don't know. I'm never really too sure whether I want to do something like that, but who knows? It could be worth it. Especially because at least 9 front, I don't know if I'd really like look at like classic Plan 9. But 9 front, because like especially I try not to make videos on something I wouldn't use myself. Whether or not I do use it myself anymore is up in the air. But like I try not to make videos I wouldn't use myself because I think that's just silly. And I try to spend enough time with a project or a program or anything like that to like have like a full as much of an understanding as possible on it before I actually do a video on it, because I don't want to, like I said before, I don't want to misinform people and stuff. And yeah, as like you were just saying, like I don't want to be too surface level and then just like not go anywhere. Like one video that was actually really popular where it was pretty surface level was my video on recutils, like the database, plain text database system. But just checking. Was on recutils. Sorry, I got distracted. In recutils, I just like didn't show off. It was just there were just so many features in it, and I just like didn't have enough time to show all of them off while making the video short enough that somebody would want to watch it as an intro. Like nobody wants to watch an introductory video that's like an hour, like 2.5 hours long. Like this stream is only like 2 hours and 10 minutes, so I can't imagine sitting through like an entire video like this. Shout outs to everybody that's been here since the start of the stream. But yeah, so that's kind of like my view on things, at least. But anyways, so maybe I try to like, yeah, I don't know. I never really know whether either if I should go do another follow-up video on topics, so it's always an interesting thing. Anyways, I'm not really showing too much, so I should probably go do something. Yeah. Sure, I guess you can. All right, this is what they call stealing topic ideas, because what I was talking about before, because literally yesterday Brody did a stream on looking through his RSS feed, and I was like, oh, you know what? There you go. That's something that I can do right now. Let's look through r/vim, because I haven't actually looked at r/vim in like forever. Yeah, I think like doing learning something together is kind of an interesting idea. I think especially because it's like a cool way to do paraprogramming with complete strangers. Like I've always like thought like paraprogramming was an interesting idea. I'd love to see more on Qt browser, DWM, Vim, Qtile. Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny. I like some of those like I've considered doing videos on, but I feel like I'm like literally the definition of like everything that I always say that I don't like, in a way. If that makes any sense. Like I'm like, oh, I don't like I try not to like exclude people, but then I do exactly that with my own content. Like I'll be like, oh no, can't do that because that's too generic. You know what I mean? Like I've thought about doing content on DWM because like I've got like a couple custom patches and stuff like that I've done, and I think like doing something like if I was gonna watch content on DWM, which I don't really do very often because they're almost all like just super basic sort of stuff, and I don't blame people for making like basic content on the topic. I'm not saying that that's like a bad thing. It's just like, especially if you're like used to DWM, it just doesn't seem super helpful to know like something like, how do I change the colors in DWM? It's like, dude, just look in the config.h file and you can figure out most of it yourself. I'm not trying to criticize anybody either if they actually need help with that sort of stuff. But that's just kind of like the sort of thing where I've been like, I don't really know. But one of the ones that I've considered doing more and more every single time is content on Vim, partly just because like I was saying earlier on in the stream, like I know I've just done more with Vim script than anybody in their right mind would ever want to do. And so because of that, I kind of feel like I might as well get some use out of it and do some content related to it. So maybe I'll do some content on that. Yeah, that's a good point. The Martin. Giving another take is also like a good thing in a lot of these sort of tools. Like especially like that was one of the reasons that I brought up, that I brought in some of my videos and everything like that I started doing some of them. The biggest thing is like, yeah, I don't want to just do, the biggest thing with like when I was saying like I'd be happy to do Vim content is I just don't want to make content that like we were talking about before is like seeking it for just to make a video on the topic. But yeah, anyways, I'm kind of like rambling at this point. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at what we've got in the RSS feed, because even though I literally just said I try not to copy people's content, that's kind of just an easy solution to go ahead and go into here. equivalent to Control X, Control F in Emacs. That's just E, like colon E. And then tab would be like the closest example. Markdown Panda. You see, this is the note-taking stuff in Vim is just so popular that I've been tempted to do a video on on my note setup. So maybe I'll do that. How do you debug in Vim? It depends on what you're trying to debug. Like honestly, the easiest way to debug something. So let's go ahead. There you go. I got something that I can actually do on screen rather than just talking to a camera with nothing else. Let's just look at let's just look at my vimrc. That's a bad example. Let me just find. I'm just trying to find a function that I can try and like pretend to debug. So here's like really simple example. In fact, this really doesn't need to be in my main. Okay, toggle white space is a good one. So right now if I do leader W, actually this is probably really small. Let's make that a bit bigger. Leader WS, then it will toggle white space. So let's just like add some white space in here. So that will like highlight the white space for you. But say for example, I like wanted to check something. So say for example, I wanted to check a variable, then you could just easily do like error or echo ERR. And then this is just like an easy way to print out a variable. So say if I wanted to check buffer shows, see if it's set, then I just do that. And then actually here, so there's like a really useful plugin that you guys can actually use if you guys write a lot of Vim script called script T. Yeah, script T's by T Pope, and it's super useful. And you can like basically you can use runtime, and then on any file. So in this case, we're just doing the current file. And so there we go. So now it's resourced this file. So now if I do leader WS, it will, screen key is in the way. It will do error in white space and then line 4, and it's not set to anything. But now it'll say, oh, it is set to 0. So it's kind of printing it out. It's kind of like a printf, sort of printfing, but in Vim. So that's one way you can do it. If you're trying to debug why Vim is starting up slow, then you can actually do something else. So let's see. Let's save that. Bench. I never remember this the way to do this. So I have like an alias to it. There we go, Vim bench. All right. So here, so the command is just Vim. So actually, let's go ahead and do this. So we're gonna go open up a scratch buffer. Let's make that a bit bigger. And we're going to do vim /tmp /q. So this is how it's working. So we're saying put the start time information into this log file. Then we're saying just execute q, which will quit Vim. And then we're doing ampersand to go. So this is another command. And so as long as this executes properly, then we're going to do vim /tmp /startup .log. And oh, what did I mess up? Oh, start. There we go. And so now it will give me like information about all this sort of stuff. So it'll tell me how long everything took to be sourced. Actually, let's make this a bit bigger. So it'll tell me how long everything has taken to be sourced. And so we can like look through, we can go, oh, this took a while to source. And this was just .plug, which is what I use for my my plugin manager. And then you can go through, oh, there's like some other ones that took a while, but those are just normal. And then once you get to here, this is where it's actually sourcing your Vim RC, which can take a while. Mine's like pretty long, so it takes like a majority of my time. And then you can see everything loads afterwards. And all right, that's what took so long. So there wasn't really much. I've like optimized mine a pretty decent amount, so nothing really takes too long. Oh, my RSI actually takes a while to load. I have like a comment object that actually takes a while, but most of mine, like I think as long as it's under 1, so as long as it's like a decimal value, I don't think it's too bad for time. But if you need to keep optimizing, then cutting them down will go like a long way. But yeah, and then you can also, yeah, I think that should give you a pretty good starting point. I just realized you meant debugging. Okay, did you mean debug like GCC? I for some reason, yeah, I thought you meant debug in Vim script, like debug with like what I was showing. Yeah, totally. New DK, I think that's how you'd say that. Hopefully. So let's go ahead and talk about that because I feel like, yeah, that's what I meant. So there you go. That should give you a pretty good way to get started with debugging Vim script. If you need to, honestly, learning a tiny bit of Vim script never hurts. Can I be honest? I know some people like say Vim script is cancer, but I don't think it's that bad. Anyways, so why I use Vim for org mode. So the biggest thing is that like I think org mode is sweet, but I don't need pretty much any of the extra features that Emacs adds to org mode. But I think the format's really sick. So let's see. Let's just go to some random note. So like right now I can pretty much do most of what I've wanted. So I can like have like to-dos, I can have tags, I can have start dates and end dates. I don't have anything to do on here right now, but that's pretty neat. And then the biggest reason that I use org mode with Vim, so I prefer Vim. I don't really need any of the extra stuff that Emacs has. I know more about Vim than I feel like it'll take me so long to learn the same amount of stuff about Emacs that I do about Vim. And I just don't end up like all the cool stuff that Emacs has seems really cool, but I like, especially like the GUI sort of stuff where you can have like an image in your file and everything. I think that's really neat. But I just like, I feel like that doesn't appeal to me enough to switch my entire editing workflow just to it. And on top of that, just Vim's like everywhere. I have to use it on my university servers a lot, so that's like a pretty big reason to stick with it. But yeah, that's the main reason that I stuck with Vim instead of using Emacs. And the reason I use org mode is because you can have to-dos along with it. And on top of that, Orgsly, which is an Android phone. Which is an Android phone that like, an Android app that you can actually use to like track your to-dos and all that sort of stuff. Is just like really awesome. Like you can do searching, you can mark things as to do and done, and it just syncs with your computer. And I like the features that org mode has. I just don't need any of the extra ones that I can't use with it. Now, when it comes to the plugin that I use, I actually used Vim do to. So let's just go ahead and see. I had that open a while ago, so it's probably in my history. Oh shoot. Just a sec. What the heck? All right. Do. And then, sorry, this is the plugin that I actually use. One sec. It's pretty simple. I mostly like there's a more simple option, but the main reason that I use it is just because when I'm on Vim, so when I'm at my computer, I want like a way to be able to check it. And so with this plugin, I can do GA and then it'll open up my agenda. And here we go. So it'll show like, oh, I have this thing to do. And I can do like CIT to change it or anything like that. So you could do like a lot of that sort of stuff. And then when I hit enter, it'll take me exactly to what I was looking at, all that sort of stuff. So that's part of the reason that I use it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty simple. And it kind of like allows me to get all the advantages out of it that I can't get out of something like Markdown. Mostly the to-dos is like the big one, and setting like times for things to be done. And I automatically do that. So when I'm like writing code, so say like, here's actually a good example of why I use it. So say I'm on like this line of code and I want to mark something specific about it, then I can just do G, Shift, C. And then, one sec. kind of hidden by my screen key. But then it'll actually open it up and set me up to write a to-do. So then I can do check this out. And then I could say plugin error. And then it just automatically fills in my date, and I can like go up in dates, go down in dates, all that sort of stuff. And then I actually have a quick little part that I added in where I could do CID, and then I can just do enter in a date. So like 5th of December 2020 or 2022. And did that work? Invalid date. Oh, well, pretty much any date format that works, but with date will actually work with this, but I guess I did not use a very simple format. But yeah. Oh wait. Let's just do December 5th, 2020. There you go. And then it updates it and changes it for me. So that's a pretty simple way to do it. That's in my VimRC if any of you guys are interested in it. But yeah, and then it adds like a little link to that file and what line it's on. So then when I go back later, I can just jump straight to the file instead of having to manually go and check it out. So pretty simple idea. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about doing a video on this because I feel like it kind of should be shouted out, especially this project. Definitely needs more development. Like I think the creator seems like a really good guy, and I've done a lot of pull requests, and he's been pretty vocal about what should and shouldn't change. So yeah, I actually have a pull request right now that I need to work on, where I was switching like the custom confirmation setup that they use to use Vim's native like confirm dialog. But I still need to work on that myself. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I kind of went a bit crazy answering it. How do you use org mode in Vim? Okay, I think I just answered that. Emacs is chunky as hell. Yeah, I think Emacs is pretty neat, but like personally, especially because I like to do things through the terminal, like terminal Emacs is what I'd probably end up using a lot, and I just feel like that would lose out on a lot of its advantages. So there's that trade-off. I don't know. Hopefully one day we'll have a Vim that takes the same sort of approach. But now that we're stuck with Lua in the future for NeoVim, and I still try to be compatible with like everything I possibly can. So I still I do all my configuration in Vim script. But Lua seems pretty sweet, and I think if I ever went full NeoVim, then I'd probably go that route. But yeah. 1 sec, I'm gonna be right back. I just gotta step out to grab a glass of water. I'll be back in like a little bit. Just a sec. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. All right, and all right, should be all good now. Sorry, I gotta go. Especially Qt browser and Vim. All right, sounds like you're interested. So maybe I will go ahead and make some more content on that. Nice seeing you. Have a good day. Oh. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of things that I need to do that I could do in front of a live audience, but something I need to do is I need to look at getting a new car, because I don't actually have a car at the moment, and so I need to get a new car for the summer. But obviously doing that on a chat isn't great. So let's go ahead and just take a look at my RSS feed and just see if there's anything eye-catching. Talking about all that. What am I looking at here? Oh, it's just a YouTube video. Persuade. Actually, let's not look at that. I have a feeling I would just get really bored looking at r/vim. But let's go ahead and see what we got here. Wrote a script to recover old snaps that have disappeared from Snapchat. It's interesting. Check that out. Oh shit! Shoot. You asked me about VIS. I feel like I remembered seeing. Oh. Okay. Okay, sorry, I didn't see your previous post actually. Let's see here. You reminded me when you were mentioning you're gonna see that. Tried the VIS editor. Yeah, so for VIS, I like the idea of it. I feel like I'd be a bit more into it. I haven't really gone too crazy with it in the past. Actually, I don't know if I have it installed. Let's find out. I usually don't. Oh, there we go. I do have it installed. Let's just see here. I don't know. I like the idea of it. I haven't really looked too much at structural regular expressions, like the whole SAM thing. I've used SAM before, and I like the ideas behind it. I think like the biggest thing for me is the lack. Well, I guess like they said that there's no EX mode, but it does seem to have some of the features of it. I haven't really gone too crazy though with VIS personally. But yeah, actually, it's been a breath of. Let's just go back. Yeah, I like the idea of structural regular expressions. I don't know if I'm really like into them enough to like use a whole editor based around them, but they're definitely good for like SAM's like sed like mode where you can do like special edits, because especially when you're working with like multiple line files, sometimes you need to match past a certain period in the expression. I think it can be pretty useful, but I don't know. I might look into it. I don't know, like I said before, I'm kind of not completely sold on making a video on something I wouldn't use. Not that I'm saying that VIS isn't a good project. Actually, it might be worth looking at maybe as a serious thing, especially because I think it's like based around using Lua, which is pretty cool. The big thing that like keeps me on Vim personally is purely because like since I have experience writing Vim script a lot, I can just make like very easy custom completions and everything. Like let me like for example, like if you guys have ever used like looked at my GitHub, I have a Vim plugin called Vim Troff, and it basically just allows you to do like Troff completion. And I actually recently came up with a way better way to do it than the current way it works, but I haven't gotten around to implementing it. But that's one of the big things that keeps me on Vim. And even like I've recently given a lot of thought about actually trying to just fully switch to just plain VI, or at least using like neat VI, which is actually really cool. For those of you guys that haven't checked out neat VI, but you like the like feeling of suckless programs. So if I do, let's go ahead and make this full screen. So neat VI is actually pretty sweet. So this is it right here. And the cool thing about it is that it's actually like configured through a config.h file. So for those of you guys that like suckless programs, this would actually be really awesome for you. So the neat thing about it is that you can do some really interesting stuff. Like you can write left to right format or right to left formatted text, which is really interesting. It has really good Unicode support. And its syntax highlighting is actually done in the config file. So because of that, you don't really have to worry about a big file getting messed up syntax highlighting, which I'm sure you've probably seen in a lot of other options. But yeah, it's pretty neat. If you guys haven't checked it out, I recommend checking it out if you guys are interested in that sort of stuff. But as far as, especially the big thing that keeps me wanting, sorry, I didn't talk about this for a second. The big thing that keeps me wanting to use like Vim instead of NeoVim and everything like that is because of the shell features, like being able to do this. Like this is a poor example, but being able to actually interact after you run a command is really nice. Like if you guys use, like you can't do anything when you execute something like that. And so that's kind of a big trade-off with NeoVim. And so I could see like a benefit to using VIS for something like that, because VIS, is it actually, how are you supposed to pronounce it actually? Is it Viz? I guess is how you pronounce it. But the big advantage there would be like VIS has, or Viz has the advantage of having Lua support, which is really great. I think that's definitely a big yes for me. And then plugins would be nice to write, especially bigger ones. And then the other big thing that I think is like a good option for it is the fact that it like allows for community support opposed to Vim, but it gets rid of the biggest thing that I consider a trade-off for Neo and Vim, which is the actual use of is actually how the shell portions of it work. So that's just kind of like a big trade-off for me. Oh, I need to drink some water. Yeah. Well, what time is it? Ooh. All right, I might call the stream pretty soon. I feel like this has been long enough, and I feel like a lot of people, I've been trying to keep the chat going for a while, partly just because I've wanted to give the people in my Discord that haven't been able to be around very much chance to swing by and say hi. But at this point, we're running on to like 2 hours and 40 minutes, so I think I'll cut it off at 2:45. So give it a bit longer, but yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm thinking of doing, actually, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys want, I was thinking of making a video of just like a Q&A video, which I know is like a bit boring, but yeah, anyways, oh, no problem. Great to have you. But yeah, the big thing is that I kind of like felt like it would be kind of an interesting idea to do a Q&A and let you guys know more about me. All that sort of stuff, and let you guys know about my opinions, because I think the streams are cool, but obviously not everybody can catch the streams. So let me know what you guys think about that idea of doing a oh yeah, and the multiple cursors. I forgot about that. You see the delay? I think I might try out Twitch in the future just for a bit. Just because sorry. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. I'm thinking of trying out Twitch just so that way the delay isn't so long in our communication. But I don't know. I think since most of my community and everybody that I'd probably interact with is actually on YouTube, I don't really know if it would really be that worth it to go on to try and move everyone over to Twitch. But at least for now, we'll stick to YouTube until the channel grows a bit more. Okay, I get that. Just an overview bit of the tools I use. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, actually, maybe I'll do that. I'll at least make a note of it. I'll at least talk about at least ones that I've done videos on. Some that actually, you know what? Maybe doing ones that I haven't done videos on is actually like also mentioning ones that I haven't done videos on is pretty worth it. Um, so it might be worth looking into covering all this sort of stuff and just seeing what draws people's interest. Currently, since the channel is pretty small, I don't know if going into like a lot of the stuff that's personal to me is too important, but I think doing the Q&A and stuff like that would be pretty nice for those of you that, or for, I guess, not for those of you because most of you guys are here, but for the people that can't catch the streams because they live in a different time zone. Do you have an issue with Neat VI where it messes up when you resize the window? When I use... Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, so... So when I do this, and then I resize it, it will get all messed up. But you have to do, so to actually like to fix it when that sort of stuff happens, you just do Control L, and then everything's back to normal. That's just one of the trade-offs of it, just because Neat VI actually doesn't rely on end curses, which is really cool, at least in my opinion, because like, I don't know, I haven't really seen anything like this that doesn't rely on anything like that. So it's definitely a really cool benefit to using Troff if you guys are really into that sort of stuff. I think it would be interesting if Troff actually had its like bindings also consider like actually being customizable through the config.h, because all of its bindings are actually done in the actual C file. And I think it'd be pretty interesting to do it the other way around. But yeah. I didn't know that. Thanks for no problem. Happy to help out. I feel like it's obviously not for everybody, and I don't really know if I would stick to it all the time, but it's definitely useful. Say if you're running on like a system, if you ever ran on a system that didn't have like I don't know, if you ever ran on an extremely limited weird system, then maybe it'd be useful. And I'm just kind of surprised at how nice it is to use. I've tried giving it a couple tries just to kind of like break away from just using Vim for everything, but also having so much experience with Vim kind of makes that hard to do. Yeah, the issue. So when you were talking about the multiple cursors, like the biggest thing for me with like multiple cursors and stuff is that I don't end up really needing it. Like for example, let's just say for example, like I wanted to increment all of this, I could just do, or change all this to something, I could just do CLI. Or say for example, like unless like the biggest thing is like setting up multiple cursors just like takes too much time, unless you're like, say for example, like you just wanted to change everything that has neat post. Then you can actually literally just do, like the way that I do this is I do star, and then that will jump to the next one, and then you could just do CGN, and then hello, and there we go. And then that was like pretty quick, and you can change all of them. And you could do it step by step, or you could just use normal substitution to do that sort of stuff. I'm sure there's like probably special use cases where that wouldn't come into play, but at that point I'd probably just consider using a macro. Like that said, I think multiple cursors could be useful, and maybe I should take a look at it. You know what? Yeah, I'll at least take a further look at it, especially since I've got a break now. Like the biggest thing that prevented me from trying to really commit to trying out a new editor was the fact that I had to worry about running into like issues trying to get work done for school. But now that I've got a bit of a chance, I'll maybe look into it. Actually, I'll have to find out if there's a language server for Viz. But if there is, then definitely. What is the term? What does it mean? What is the meaning of end curses? So end curses is like an implementation of curses, which was a proprietary library, but end curses itself is just basically a library for making terminal applications. And it's just got like a ton of features and stuff like that. And it's probably the best, like there's not really a lot of other options out there that is cross-platform and like available everywhere. That's the big thing. The argument for multiple cursors. Yeah, the more interactive nature, if you mess up right. Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. I think that would be one nice thing about multiple cursors. But yeah, like select is not Yeah, no, it's not ncurses. Ncurses would be, oh, I didn't even realize that was you from the Discord. How's it going, man? No, so unless that wasn't you, I figured it'd be a weird, strange coincidence for someone to bring that up specifically. But yeah, ncurses would be like using a specific library. Like actually here, let me just see if I can find a, sorry, I just got a notification. Let's see if I can find, but yeah, ncurses itself is a library. Yeah, how's it going, Hunjun? I was actually, or Hugh, is that how you would pronounce your name? Hunjun or Hyunjun? Huey Jun? Let me know. But yeah, that's it's basically, yeah, just a library. Sorry. Yeah, ncurses just gives you like the most control possible. It's what most TUIs are made with, like as mentioned. But I don't know, also on top of that, ncurses is like I guess I don't know if any of you guys have written anything with ncurses, but ncurses is like super frustrating to work with. Maybe I don't know, maybe not that frustrating, but like it's hard to. Third time with Huey June. Okay, good to know. Let me know if the last one I'm sticking with Huey June, so hopefully that's correct. But anyway, so yeah, so the advantage of like ncurse is that you get like a lot of control. You can check if your terminal supports certain features and stuff like that, and draw lines and everything like that. So that's kind of the big draw to writing things in ncurses, but it can kind of be, a bit of a mess. All right. Okay. Last chance for questions, because I think I should end off the stream pretty soon. Yeah, well, like most programs that you use ncurses kind of varies in how it looks. Like Noise, the program that I was saying was kind of similar to how Select worked, or how it looked, is actually using ncurses. Is a good example. All right, I think I'm gonna cap it off here. The stream was pretty successful, I'd say. Went pretty well. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Hopefully I'll see you in the next stream. Hopefully I see you in the next one. I feel like pretty much everybody here is probably subscribed, but if you're not, subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you guys will get notified of my next video. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Bye.